Loudermilk is recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chopra, thank you for being here and willing to answer questions. One thing is, I agree with some of my colleagues. There's some things that we share that's important, and that's data privacy. That is something I've been working on since I've been here in Congress, and it seems that we continue to go backwards, not forwards. And I'm talking about the federal government in general. One of the things about data privacy is it is intrinsically tied to data security. And one of the best ways to protect data is to not have it. You don't have to protect what you don't have, so only collect what you need, and that's another conversation for another day. I want to ask about the data breach that happened in February of this year. Obviously, you're aware of this as you've communicated this in the past. But I do want to ask some questions about that, especially as early as 2014, the Bureau was warned that vulnerabilities in its information security program put it at risk of a breach. And the latest OIG report indicates the Bureau hadn't addressed any of these cybersecurity action items that were previously recommended. Have you implemented any of these recommendations since the publication of the report? And this report was February of 23.
Yeah, so we have gotten from our FISMA audit, our OIG, and our third-party review, a whole slew of things that over time we've been able to successfully implement. I want to give you the appropriate detail of that, and we do know which ones have been fulfilled, and we work with the IG to see if it's also to their satisfaction. But let me just share that, of course, the misappropriation of data that occurred earlier this year was extremely serious. One of my reflections on it is that we're talking about insider threat.
Yes.
And so part of what we're doing is not just making sure the systems are not penetrable from outside, but also those inside making sure that there is limited access where it only needs to be. Now, in this case, it related to, there will be employees that have access to information. We've made some system changes too to limit the information that is accessible. So I can confirm that the issue was not related to any sort of intelligence operation by a foreign state actor. The individual is no longer employed at the agency, but there's work to do as it relates to insider threats across
right. And in a lot of cases, access by foreign actors, criminals, come as the result of improper actions by an internal operator, as we saw with Equifax.
Yes.
That happened a while back.
And
right?
that ultimately we know. It was not just Equifax, but Marriott, Office of Personnel Management. It was, actors affiliated with the Chinese government that we have to make sure that we know this data is used for all sorts of purposes.
And so one of the things, and I just want to ask you specifically some of these questions and bring it back up. You may not have the answer now, but if you could respond. There's specifically 3 in the OIG report, which was, the first was develop and implement a cybersecurity risk register and associated process to identify and manage organizational-wide cybersecurity risks. These were showing that they had not been completed by February of 2023, but the response from the Bureau was implementation in progress, and estimated completion is this year, and we're running out of time. So if the other 2, and I can provide these to you, all 3 of these, we'll provide them in written format. If you can respond where you are on these, I would appreciate it.
And so, on that one, we know that part of it was, I believe we were procuring a new system, and it would replace and implement something. So we have tried to also complete these in a way that is deliberate and also to the satisfaction of our audience.
I'm running out of time quickly. I need to ask this one. How and when were the victims of the CFPB data breach notified? Was it, Congress wasn't notified until May. Were the the businesses or the individuals that potentially breached, were they notified at any time? And if
Yes,
so,
so-
was it before Congress or after Congress?
So we notified Congress completely pursuant to the guidance, and actually when we found out, we looked to see when the data may have left the system by the insider threat. So we went through the process of making sure everyone, we did the customer notifications, and we had to work with our supervised entity, because sometimes it was complicated. And my staff just shared that Congress was notified in March.
Right, but when were the customers notified, before or after Congress?
We actually didn't have their contact information in most situations, so we had to work with the institution.
Gentleman's time has expired.